All right, Mr. Martin's IB biology class. Let's do a deep dive into cell specialization.
Sounds good.
It's amazing to think that our bodies are made up of trillions of cells,
Trillions. Yeah.
and they're not all just like one big blob, right?
Ooh, definitely not.
There are like over 200 different types
Movies.
with their own unique structures and functions.
Absolutely.
That's a lot of variety.
It is. And the crazy thing is that they all start with the same DNA blueprint.
That's what blows my mind. Like, how
Yeah.
can a skin cell and a brain cell have the same DNA but be so different?
That's the magic of gene expression.
Gene expression.
It's like having a giant cookbook with tons of recipes.
Okay, I'm following.
You have all the instructions, but you wouldn't make every dish at once, right?
You choose the recipe you want.
Exactly. Cells do the same thing.
So they pick and choose which genes to use.
They activate certain genes and keep others silent depending on what type of cell they need to become.
So like a skin cell would activate genes for protection and stuff?
Exactly, and it would turn off the genes for something like nerve impulses.
Oh, that's so cool. So it's all about which genes get switched on or off.
This process is called differentiation.
Differentiation, like going from being an all-rounder to a specialist.
Exactly, it's like a cell choosing its career path.
I love that analogy. So let's talk about some of these cellular specialists. What are some examples that really highlight this whole differentiation thing?
Well, there are red blood cells, or erythrocytes, as they're scientifically known.
Erythrocytes, that's a mouthful.
It is, but they're pretty amazing. These little guys are the oxygen carriers of our bodies.
Like tiny delivery trucks?
Perfect analogy. They're shaped like a biconcave disc to maximize surface area for oxygen absorption.
So more surface area equals more oxygen they can carry.
You got it. And here's a fun fact. They don't even have a nucleus.
Wait, what? No nucleus?
Nope. They ditch it to make more room for hemoglobin.
Hemoglobin?
The protein that binds to oxygen is what makes them such efficient oxygen transporters.
Wow, so they give up their control center to become super efficient oxygen carriers.
It's a trade-off. They have a shorter lifespan because of it, but they're constantly being produced in the bone marrow to replenish the supply.
That's incredible. So it's like they sacrifice longevity for maximum oxygen carrying capacity.
You could say that. And speaking of specialized cells, have you heard of gametes?
Gametes, oh yeah, the sperm and egg cells, right?
Those are the ones pretty important for creating new life, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, and they represent the smallest and largest cells in the human body, respectively.
That's right. Both perfectly designed for their roles in reproduction.
It's amazing how diverse cells can be, but, when I think of specialized cells, I always picture those long nerve cells stretching throughout the body.
Ah, yes, the neurons.
Neurons, yeah, those are some seriously impressive cells.
Some neurons can be over a meter long, transmitting signals all over the place.
It's like a superhighway of information zipping around in our bodies.
A great way to put it.
And we can't forget about the immune system, superheroes, the white blood cells.
The leukocytes fighting off those nasty invaders.
Always on patrol, ready to engulf bacteria and produce antibodies.
They're the real MVPs keeping us healthy.
Totally. And then there are those misunderstood fat cells, the adipocytes.
Often given a bad rap, but they're essential for regulating energy and hormones.
And they can change size depending on how much energy they're storing.
Like little energy reservoirs expanding and contracting as needed.
Pretty neat. And last but not least, we got to give a shout out to the skeletal muscle cells.
The powerhouses behind every move we make.
They're packed with proteins that allow us to walk, run, dance, basically do anything.
And under a microscope, they have this cool striped pattern, hence the name striated muscle fibers.
So we've got all these specialized cells working together to keep us going. But I still wonder, how do they actually become specialized in the first place?
It's a great question. If they all have the same DNA, what makes them take different paths?
Exactly. It's like they have a hidden talent that only comes out under the right conditions.
That's a great way to think about it, and that's where things get even more interesting.
Oh, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, it all comes down to signaling molecules. Think of them like cellular messengers guiding cells towards their destiny.
So like little instructions telling cells what to become.
You could say that these signals are crucial for a cell's development.
I'm all ears, tell me everything.
It's like a city with different neighborhoods specializing in certain things. Cells receive signals like zoning permits telling them what to do.
So it's not just their DNA, but also these external signals that shape their destiny.
Exactly. It's a combination of nature and nurture.
That makes sense. So what kind of signals are we talking about?
Well, one group called morphogens play a big role during embryonic development.
Morphogens, those sound important.
They create gradients of signals, kind of like ripples spreading from a stone thrown into a pond.
Okay, I can picture that.
So cells closer to the source of the morphogen get a stronger signal, and those further away get a weaker signal.
And that determines what they become.
Exactly. It's like those ripples carry instructions for building different parts of the body.
So like cells bathed in a high concentration of the morphogen might become brain cells, and those further out with a weaker signal might become something else, like skin cells.
Precisely. It's a brilliant system for creating complex structures.
It's amazing how these tiny molecules can orchestrate the development of an entire organism.
It really is. But speaking of cells with incredible potential, let's talk about stem cells.
Stem cells, the blank slates of the cellular world.
In a way, yes, they have this unique ability to both self-renew and differentiate.
Self-renew and differentiate meaning.
They can create more stem cells, and they can also specialize into different cell types.
So they're like the ultimate multitaskers. They can be anything they want.
It's like they have a toolbox full of potential career paths.
I love that analogy. But are all stem cells the same? I've heard terms like totipotent and pluripotent, and I get a bit confused.
It's a good question. There's actually a hierarchy of stem cell potency, or potential, if you will.
Okay, break it down for me.
So totipotent stem cells are the most versatile. They're found in the very early embryo.
Early embryos, like right after fertilization.
Exactly. And these cells can become any cell in the body, plus the tissues that support the embryo, like the placenta.
Wow, so they can create an entire organism from scratch.
That's the amazing thing about them. They have the ultimate potential.
Incredible. What about pluripotent stem cells?
They're also found in the early embryo, but they're slightly more restricted.
Restricted in what way?
They can differentiate into almost any cell type within the body, but not the extra embryonic tissues like the placenta.
Okay, so still pretty amazing, but not as all-encompassing as totipotent stem cells.
Right. And then we have adult stem cells, which are found in various tissues throughout the body.
These are the ones we hear about in research for things like tissue regeneration, right?
Exactly. They're multipotent, meaning they can give rise to a limited range of cell types within a specific tissue or organ.
So like hematopoietic stem cells in the bone marrow, they can become all the different types of blood cells.
You got it. They're like specialists within their own neighborhoods, maintaining and repairing the tissues they reside in.
Fascinating. And these adult stem cells are the ones scientists are excited about for potential therapies, right?
But that's the hope. They could be used to replace damaged cells, repair tissues, or even grow new organs for transplantation.
It sounds like science fiction, but it's so cool to think about the possibilities.
It is, but there are definitely challenges and ethical considerations, especially when working with embryonic stem cells.
Of course, I can imagine that's a whole other deep dive we could do sometime.
Definitely a lot to unpack there, but for now, let's switch gears and talk about another important concept, the surface area to volume ratio.
Surface area to volume ratio, and that sounds a bit technical.
It is, but it's a pretty simple idea. It
Yeah.
basically explains why cells stay small.
Okay, I'm listening.
As a cell grows, its volume increases much faster than its surface area. Think of it like blowing up a balloon.
I'm with you.
The amount of air inside the balloon, the volume grows much faster than the surface of the balloon itself.
So a bigger cell has more surface area, but its volume grows even faster.
Exactly. And that matters because cells need their surface area for exchange of materials like nutrients in and waste out.
So a lower surface area to volume ratio would make it harder for a cell to get what it needs and get rid of waste.
It's like trying to feed a growing city with the same number of roads the infrastructure can't keep up.
So a cell that gets too big would basically suffocate or get poisoned by its own waste.
Pretty much, and it would also have trouble dividing properly.
So this surface area volume ratio is what keeps cells from becoming giant, inefficient blobs.
It's a crucial factor that influences cell size and function.
It's amazing how nature has optimized these processes over millions of years of evolution.
It really is a testament to the power of natural selection.
Well, this whole deep dive has been a real eye-opener. We've covered so much about cell specialization.
It's a fascinating topic, isn't it?
Absolutely, from the diversity of cell types to the potential of stem cells and the constraints of cell size, it's all connected.
And there's still so much we don't know.
That's what makes it so exciting now. Mr. Martin's class, I have a question for you. So if you could choose any cell in the body and give it a superpower, which one would it be?
Ooh, that's a tough one. So many possibilities.
Right. Like imagine boosting those red blood cells so they could carry even more oxygen. We'd be unstoppable athletes.
Uh-huh. I like the way you think. Or What about supercharging our immune cells so they could zap any invader instantly?
Now you're talking no more getting sick ever again.
That would be amazing, but if I had to pick, I think I'd go for the nerve cells.
The neurons, those long-distance communicators, why those?
Well, imagine thinking at lightning speed, processing information, instantly having super reflexes. It would be incredible.
That's true. We'd be like super geniuses learning everything in a flash.
Exactly. But even without superpowers, the level of specialization we already have is pretty mind-blowing.
It's true. Our bodies are amazing machines with each cell playing its part perfectly.
It's like a symphony with all these different instruments working together to create a beautiful piece of music.
I love that analogy. And, it's not just at the cellular level, this whole specialization thing.
You're right, it's everywhere in nature.
Like tissues specialize to form organs, and organs work together to create organisms.
It's a cascade of complexity, all built upon the foundation of specialization.
It makes you realize how interconnected everything is from the smallest cell to the largest ecosystem.
And it all goes back to that incredible ability of cells to differentiate and take on specialized roles.
It's a fundamental principle that drives evolution and diversity.
Absolutely. It's what makes life so fascinating.
Well, Mr. Martin's class, that's a wrap on our deep dive into cell specialization.
Hopefully you've learned a thing or two.
I know I have. We've explored the diversity of cell types, the potential of stem cells, the constraints of cell size. It's been a wild ride.
And remember, there's still so much more to discover.
Exactly. Keep asking questions, keep exploring, and who knows, maybe one of you will be the next scientist to make a groundbreaking discovery in cell biology.
It's an exciting field with endless possibilities.
Well, until next time, stay curious and never stop learning.
And remember, even the smallest cell can have the biggest impact.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll catch you next time.